All right, let's talk about something huge that's happening right now in the world of search, especially for food and beverage brands. It's not just about being on Google anymore. It's about becoming part of the AI conversation.
I want you to just stop and think about this for a second. Seriously, what if all of your customers, the people who buy your products every single week, just stopped using Google tomorrow? What would you do?
Well, okay, here's the twist. They're not actually stopping, but they are changing how they search. Instead of typing in a few keywords, they're having full-on conversations with AI assistants like ChatGPT and Google's Gemini. Search has literally become a conversation.
And that brings us to our first big point today. Search has changed forever. The old rules are pretty much out the window. AI has completely rewritten the playbook for how people discover brands online.
And get this isn't some trend that's 5 years away. It is happening right now. More than half of all consumers are already using these AI tools to do their research and to shop. So think about it. If your brand isn't showing up in those AI answers, you're already starting to become invisible. So how in the world do you adapt to this? Well, there's a whole new discipline emerging called Artificial Intelligence Optimization, or AIO for short. Now, the goal here is not to trick an algorithm with a bunch of keywords. No, it's to make your content so clear, so well-structured, that an AI can actually understand it, trust it, and then confidently recommend your brand to a real person.
This slide just lays it all out perfectly. Traditional SEO was this game of keywords, backlinks, and getting clicks. But AIO? It's completely different. It's all about answering questions directly, using structured data so the machine can read it, and earning direct citations right there in the AI's answer. It's a totally new mindset.
Okay, so that leads us right into our next section, from keywords to conversations. We're going to focus on the first part of the solution, which is all about shifting your content strategy away from just targeting keywords and toward creating genuinely helpful conversations.
This quote from Go Fish Digital, man, it just hits the nail on the head, right? It perfectly captures how people are thinking now. They want an immediate, summarized response. They don't want a list of 10 blue links they have to click through and figure out for themselves. They just want the answer.
So, the takeaway here is that your content has to be optimized for this new behavior. First, stop thinking about keywords and start targeting the actual questions people are asking. Second, give them clear, short answers that an AI can just lift and quote directly. Third, for your longer stuff, add a little summary, a TLDR. And finally, and this one's huge, simplify your language. Make it super easy for both humans and machines to understand what you're saying.
All right, now we're going to get to the really technical but super important heart of the matter. If your content is the conversation, then the data underneath it all is what makes that conversation possible. So welcome to Section 3, Feeding the AI Engine.
Let's stick with our food metaphor here for a second. I want you to think of all the data on your website as the list of ingredients for an AI. Now, if those ingredients are a mess, if they're unlabeled, if they're totally unreadable, well, the AI chef just can't use them. Your brand gets left out of the final recipe, which is the recommendation to the user.
So how do you label these ingredients? You use something called schema markup. Now I know, it sounds really complex, but just think of it like a digital nutritional label for all of your content. It specifically tells the AI what every single piece of information is. This is the recipe name, these are the ingredients, here are the nutritional facts. There's zero guesswork for the AI.
And here is the payoff. This is why it's so important. The data shows that doing this, implementing this kind of structured data, it isn't just a nice to have. Products that use it correctly are recommended 3 to 5 times more often in AI shopping results. I mean, that is a massive, massive competitive advantage.
So, you've created conversational content, you've structured all your data. How does that actually translate into getting recommended? Well, let's dive into that in Section 4, Becoming the AI's Choice.
Okay, this is really fascinating. Research from BrightEdge shows that different AI platforms act totally differently. Google's AI overviews, for example, they tend to cite a bunch of different brands in an answer, over 6 on average. ChatGPT, on the other hand, it mentions way fewer brands. So what does that mean? It means newer brands actually have a better shot at showing up in Google's AI results.
So what's the game plan to actually get cited? You have to be proactive. You've got to integrate your products into online recipes, work with influencers and food bloggers, and literally write quotable sentences that an AI can just grab and use. And most critically, you have to build your authority using Google's signals for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trust, or EEAT. And that last point, trust,
That's so critical it deserves its own section. So let's talk about our final section, building trust and, just as importantly, measuring your success in this whole new world.
Look, in the age of AI, accuracy and trust are, well, they're everything. It's the whole ballgame. These AI models are being designed specifically to avoid misinformation. So if your website has inconsistent or, worse, unsubstantiated claims, the AI is going to learn not to trust you as a source, and you will be penalized for it.
This means you need to be absolutely rigorous about verifying everything you say. Every single claim has to be truthful and backed up with real evidence. Your data has to be the same everywhere, on your site, on social media, everywhere. And you should be able to trace every fact back to its original source. This is how you build an unbreakable chain of trust.
So how do you know if any of this is actually working? You need a totally new set of metrics. You need to track your AI share of voice. That's how often you're mentioned compared to your competitors. You need to monitor how often you show up in Google's AI overviews. And you need to be constantly testing how these assistants answer direct questions about your brand. And of course, keep an eye on your structured data to make sure it's clean and error-free.
And that really brings us to the ultimate takeaway. This quote just says it all. Winning in the age of AI isn't about finding some loophole or gaming the system. It is about fundamentally becoming the most helpful, the most clear, and the most trustworthy source of information in your entire category. Period.
So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. As conversational AI becomes the new normal for search, you really have to ask yourself, is your brand providing the clear, structured, and trustworthy ingredients for AI success, or are you about to be left off the menu entirely?